I would like for all of you to imagine that you are engineers working for NASA on a mission to launch a spacecraft up into the heavens. And it turns out the weather has been quite bad. A lot of other issues have taken place, and the launch has been postponed 8 different times, each costing NASA a lot of money. And the tensions are beginning to mount. They really want to get this bird off the ground, and it is now January 28th, 1986. It is the 9th attempt for launch. You take a look outside, you notice it's 30 degrees out, it's a cold day, and then it hits you. Your intuition tells you that the O-rings that support the joints on the solid rocket boosters won't work. And so you share your concerns with your superiors, and they tell you the launch is a go. And we all know what happened 73 seconds into that fateful launch. I know exactly where I was the day the Challenger exploded. I was working for a small theater in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we all watched the entire event unfold live on TV. And 4 years later, I was able to get a copy of the President's Commission on the Space Shuttle Challenger accident report, and in it, it said that the engineers' hunches and concerns were disregarded by top management out of a lack of hard data. What would have happened if those engineers' hunches had been heard? It is possible that the Challenger crew would still be with us here today. It was this event that got me to ask some questions. How do we identify, trust, and have the courage to use our intuition? And how do we create companies whose cultures actually encourage their employees to use and share their intuition even without hard data? Now, intuition is defined as fast, immediate, quick, subconscious, big picture, the ability to see patterns really well, and it communicates to us via our feelings. Analytical thinking is more slow, deliberate, history-based, fact-based, and it communicates with us through the common language of words and writing. It was this event, though, with the Challenger explosion that got me to really think about my own intuition. And today, it is one of the most important things I have in my life. In fact, it has helped me make some really big, important decisions. For example, 26 years ago, my family and friends were a bit concerned that I was getting involved in a rebound relationship with another recently divorced person. And despite a lot of pressure, I followed my intuition. We got married, and 26 years later, we are still married, and we are still the best of friends. However, not paying attention to my intuition has gotten a little bit of a different result. For example, the day before my first wedding, my intuition was just screaming. It said, "This does not feel right." And I almost called off the wedding. However, I lacked courage. I was afraid. I was afraid of disappointing my family and my friends and feeling the shame and the isolation that would come with that. So I went along with it anyway, and we got married, and 18 months of couples counseling later, we split. According to a therapist, every one of her divorced clients knew early on the relationship wouldn't work. Can any of you relate? Like breathing, we all have the tools to be intuitive, but we sometimes lack the courage to express that intuition, or we get wrapped up into a kind of analysis paralysis mode. In our Western culture, we give intuition a bad rap. A lot of people feel that we have progressed as humans away from a more primitive, religious way of thinking to a more analytical, scientific way of thinking. We all want to be accepted, and in some circles, being intuitive is being seen as flaky. And since intuition ultimately is trying to seek some sort of ultimate truth, well, sometimes we're afraid of what we're going to find. So we might keep ourselves really busy and overanalyze things. Today, our biggest challenge is not education, poverty, political divisiveness, or even global warming. Our biggest challenge is within ourselves. It is getting out of our own way. It is identifying and using and trusting that authentic, intuitive voice. For when we are intuitive, we make better decisions by accessing a vast amounts of information and experience. We forge deep and real connections through a deep listening. And we creatively problem solve because we can see things from different perspectives. History is full of examples of men and women who have identified and used their intuition. Archimedes, the Greek philosopher, got his big eureka moment when he was taking a bath. The person who came up with the idea for Post-it notes actually got that idea while he was in a choir singing. And George de Mezzel was able to come up with the idea for Velcro while he was taking his dog for a walk. All of us here, at one point or another, know what it's like to feel intuitive. But sometimes we lack the courage to speak up. And this is particularly true in companies. A lot of organizations have the mantra of evidence-based decision-making, where only subject matter experts can speak up. And while all these organizations encourage people to share ideas, few actually support those who cannot speak the language of data. To speak up in a meeting with just a gut feeling is cause for being seen as flaky or unprepared. Today, however, we face new challenges. We live in a world where the speed of change is the slowest it's going to be for the rest of our lives. Think about that. And if we're going to keep pace with this change, we're going to need to pattern recognize a lot faster. We're going to need to get a lot better at collaborating, and we need to get a lot better at increasing the speed of our learning. Some organizations have gotten the message. The Harvard Business Review recently had an article that said that the higher up you go, the more important intuition becomes, because it makes executives better listeners, decision makers, and problem solvers. The New Jersey Institute for Technology did a study that compared business success with intuition, and it found that 80% of the executives whose companies' profits more than doubled over the last 5 years had above average intuition skills. We need intuition to be a part of the decision-making process. So how do we do this? How do we get better at our intuition? Presence, purpose, play. Presence. This is the ability for us to quiet the mind. If we want to live in the present moment, we have to decide to do so by slowing down our breathing, getting back into our bodies, and paying attention to how we and others are feeling. So here is a little challenge. Meditate for 10 minutes for the next 10 days and see what difference it makes on your ability to be present. Purpose. This is the ability for us to ask a large question before we do something really important, like how do I add more energy into my teams, or how do I make my meetings more fun? And then listen to how your intuition provides you an answer. Play. This is the ability to experiment without the need for success. So here's some ground rules. We don't have to get it right the first time. We can have fun with this. And we don't have to tolerate a lot of negativity. So for the final thoughts, I would like for you to imagine a conversation, a really great conversation you would like to have with somebody. Notice how intuition is deepening your listening, your empathy, and creating a situation where neither of you need to control a conversation. Imagine a really exciting brainstorming session with your colleagues, and notice how intuition is fueling more ideas that is playing off of one another. Imagine tackling a really big social problem with people who have differences of opinion, and notice how intuition is allowing all of you to see things from different perspectives. If we identify, trust, and have the courage to use our intuition, we can transform our businesses, teach our kids to be independent thinkers, and maybe we can tackle some of the big social problems in order to make the world a more sustainable, healthy place for all of us to be able to reach our highest potential. Einstein once said that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. May we all remember our gift. Thank you.